No, not Ultima Thule side quests. Chronicles of a New Era. Pandemonium. There we go. Okay. Sorry, let me take another drink before I get into this. Okay, so. At the end of the last raid bit, Claudian had disappeared. I don't think we knew where he was going. And Pandemonium just appeared in the Ethereal Sea. Presumably from the past. What the fuck did that mean? Let's find out. Rusino is elated at your fortuitous arrival, for it seems that moments ago, Fortuno sent word of information that could shed light upon the nature of Claudian's disappearance and the subsequent manifestation of Pandemonium in the current age. The researcher instructs you to make your way to the Ethereal Lens, where Fortuno awaits. Fortuno informs you that an investigation of Azisla recovered Claudian's airship, but found no trace of... Oh, I think we did know he was going to Azisla, but I don't think we remember... It very much wasn't clear why. Azisla recovered... Yep, but found no trace of the missing professor. Furthermore, reports indicate that part of Azisla is no longer there, to all appearances having been removed from the facility in its entirety. Fortuno and his peers believe that this missing portion has somehow reformed into Pandemonium, which now floats forebodingly on the currents of the Ethereal Sea. Ere you can brave into its halls in search of the truth, however, you will need to dispatch an ether-hungry beast that has emerged from its gates. Equipped with the memory crystal that once so fascinated Claudian, you step forth to confront the ravening monstrosity. Yeah, so... In general, this raid tier, I think, is, like, the best of the lot in Pandemonium. This first boss, I think, is also, like, really good. There's not, like, too much remarkable about it, although it is giving us, like, it is giving us more, like, alternate, or looking out for, one of two possibilities in a normal raid. And I feel like that might be an underutilized thing. So, a big mechanic in this is, the boss taking on the soul of a certain person, or certain archetype, I guess, and being able to do stuff with it. First one is a mage. They use fire and ice spells. Fire places AoEs on people, ice restricts the arena. And when they overlap, she will call out fire or ice, and either the fire debuffs expand, or the ice constricts, and you need to be able to kind of work with that. I think that's a really neat mechanic to start introducing in stuff like normals, to have people, like, fucking checking. Although, I understand why they don't do it too much, though, because, oh my god, even in normal pub groups, like, that can kind of be painful. Because, like, people are just, like, unaware it's gonna happen, and then at the last minute, they'll, like, run into way more than safety, and, like, cover the arena with fire, or something like that, when the ice is being small. It's a mess. There's a melee fighter too, who does a lot of knockbacks and like AoEs. They'll do like a donut or close range AoE and then a front and back cone, or front or back cone. I like that part, although, like, the bit where he slams the center of the arena and sends, fault lines out was a bit hard to read at first, but then I actually got it. Being forced to play melee on this actually made me realize how it actually works. Where you just look at the two inner cracks and see they're always going in the opposite direction, so it must be somewhere in the perpendicular area that's actually safe. And then there's the beast form, which throws down Charybdis, puts shit on the arena for much longer than usual, and then does meteors, then does tethered tank busters into a proximity AoE in the center, which I've never seen a normal group get through that without someone dying. It's either a tank because they've eventually taken way too many stacks, or just some, like, random melee is just stuck there still. It's funny. But yeah, Good fight overall, I think. Nice first boss. With Kokaitos slain, souls may now continue their journey through the lifestream unimpeded. Still, the Ethereal Sea's safety and the Savage exclusive one, the Chimeric Soul. Oh yeah, that does like the limit cut stuff. Listen, I haven't played that, and that's gonna go over everyone's heads, and I'm already spending too much time on the MSQ and normal stuff, so I'm gonna keep going. Still, the Ethereal Sea's safety cannot be assured so long as Pandemonium looms in the distance, so you hasten to return to Fortuno and initiate your investigation into the looning anachronism. You can return to the Aishascope. You receive an unexpected visit from none other than Athena. While she claims no ill intent, she confesses to kidnapping Claudian for use in her research, which she seems convinced will allow her to ascend to godhood. She would have you join her experiment, going so far as to create apparitions from crystallized memories and spare souls that can teach you of her ambitions. She then retreats to Pandemonium, leaving you with the bewildered simulacra of Lahabrea and Erichthonius. The reconstructed Erichthonius and Lahabrea explain that while they have been given form of a sort, they are unable to wield magics or affect the physical world. They remain adamant in their conviction to stop Athena's schemes, however, to which end Lahabrea suggests gathering information on the Pandemonium now floating in the Ethereal Sea. The surprised researchers on the opposite end of the platform would be the perfect place to start, so it seems a strange meeting is in order. With some encouragement, Rusino and Nemgigi overcome their initial fright and introduce themselves to your allies from the Ancient Age. Although both sides have countless questions they could ask the other, they focus their efforts on coming up with a plan to foil Athena. While they share knowledge of the present and memories of the past, you are to begin your advance into Pandemonium. Erichthonius advises you to first secure the entrance to Pandemonium that he and Lahabrea might safely join your exploration of the facility. When you approach, you are greeted by a familiar face, Themis. Like Lahabrea and Erichthonius, he has been recreated by Athena's hand, though with more combat potential and less free will, if his words are to be believed. Not moments after this unsettling revelation, the spires of Pandemonium twist into a monstrous foe, the better for Athena to test your scientifically improbable strength. With Themis having vanished, you are left to face Pandemonium's wrath alone. You know not what sort of soul inhabits its monstrous facade, but it is certain to be unmerciful. So this fight, I don't know if it's because it's the second fight in the wing. I don't know if it's because of the relative difficulty of this fight to the rest of the fights in this wing, or the fact that this is actually a harder fight than all of them. But this is the fight I won't wipe on the most, on normal. Hands down, 100%. Almost, I don't think there has been a group. I think like there's a 75 to 65% chance that any normal group I go in with this just ends up wiping at some point. This is like, and I don't know what it is about it. I think there's like a couple of things that are a little unintuitive the first time through. So if you go through with people who haven't been through the fight before, it's a little tough. But here's, like, there are a couple of really important mechanics. First of all is the webs. There are two different abilities that that can create webs in the fight. There's one which will specifically target players with a timed AoE, so it'll go off in after some time. But anyone near you can create a link. And if that person creates a link between you and someone else in a web, they can also chain and create a web to someone else who creates a link with someone else. Basically, if you just make this so like you do the thing where you conserve as much space as possible, overlap your AoEs, you're doing it wrong. Not only that, but anyone you actually bind with, including some little poles around the arena, you will tether to. If you are tethered, you will start dying. If you reach 5 stacks without someone walking through the webs around you to release you fully, you die. Then, the other mechanic is that there are going to be towers on the central arena. 6 of them. There's always 6. And these can be, basically think of like a 3x3 grid. They can be on any of those, in any arrangement whatsoever. Steel web is not one of them. I'm pretty sure one of them is like entangling something. Anyway, it's not important. So those are the 2 key mechanics that I think fuck people up the most. The towers resolve, and then like a minion or an enemy on that will rise up and either do a donut or a targeted AoE. And people get those mixed up a lot. The targeted AoE in particular is pretty nasty because I think I think the donut will just give you a vuln. The centered one will give you a doom, which if it doesn't get dispelled, you die. So yeah, obviously bad. Then they do a cute thing. There's a mechanic where, like, you know, center's bad. He is a fan of progressing AoE, so make sure you stand in the right place. Then there's a second web ability that is just targeted on the ground, but prefers players, obviously. But some of them will always create web bridges to outer platforms that are separated by goop. The goop reduces healing and deals damage over time. Don't step in the goop. Do not step in the fucking goop. I swear to God, no, there are barely any, like, this fight is already bad enough when people don't know what they're doing. If you get one of these stacks and a healer doesn't know what it does, you're fucking dead. Like, you're just going to die. So, don't step in the fucking goop. But they can make bridges. And there's one attack on normal that this boss has where it'll, you know, hit the center of the room with a, like, flat-out kill move, unless you're on the outer platforms. It also has, like, a little ray... It also has, like, a half-room attack that it likes to do before that particular one to catch people out if they're, like, way onto the bridge already. Yeah, it lasts 45 seconds. Well, no, it doesn't last 45 seconds on normal. No, it doesn't last that long. I'm pretty sure it doesn't last that long. I could be wrong about that, but then again, I was talking to Luca recently that, like, fights in Endwalker feel a lot shorter than they do in the earlier expansions, even if the earlier expansions are actually shorter, because there's so much happening within like a minute or two that I'm always caught off guard when my cooldowns come up in Endwalker more than I am in A Realm Reborn. I think it might be 45 seconds in Savage. I feel like it's way shorter. Oh yeah, like it's definitely not like just a 10-second thing. I would have thought 30. It would like 25 or 30. I don't know why I think 25, but regardless. So that obviously has like a lot of mechanics that will catch you off guard the first time, and I think that's the reason that there tends to be a lot more wiping, and why I think this fight might legitimately be a little bit harder than the rest of the fights in this. Maybe except for P12, but yeah, this fight has a knack for catching people off guard, and people are not very good at recovering, let me tell you. Yeah, one of the things that I think really sucks too is, like, the 6 tower thing in particular is one of those things that can start snowballing things badly, because, like there's there's at least 2 melee characters all the time, and there's at least 2 range, so tanks and healers, it makes sense to be, like, kind of front and back, but everyone else kind of scatters to the middle, but there's no macro for that, or PF strat to make sure that actually happens. So, like, what often happens is someone misses out on a tower because 2 people were kind of, like, arguing, essentially, without words about going into a tower. That's happened to me a fair bit. It's just like, okay, I'll stand on this tower. This person is still standing on this tower. They haven't moved at all. Okay, I'm going to move over. Oh, they moved at the same time? Now 2 towers didn't get caught. Awesome. Ugh. Anyway. Really cool fight. Also, the music for these last 2 fights, fucking immaculate. Though the demonic dungeon attempts to ensnare you in as it as it has so many ill-fated creatures, it is only a matter of time ere you cut clean through its web, precisely as Themis anticipated. As its walls crumble to the earth, one question echoes in the air. What, or who, shall be the next to face your blade? Themis reappears to congratulate you on your victory, as do La Habrea and Erichthonius, having belatedly secured passage, or safe passage, through the dark energy surrounding Pandemonium. Before disappearing once more, Themis beckons you through the strange gate that has manifested where the prison once stood, leaving you and your companions with myriad questions. It seems that while you were battling Pandemonium, Nemgigi and Rusino apprised La Habrea and Erichthonius of major events from the past several millennia. Armed with knowledge of the Ultima weapon and beyond, the ancient pair theorized that Athena stored her memories within the heart of Sabik, which it transpires was created by none other than the megalomaniacal chief of Keyword herself. The heart magnified the desires of its users to a fanatical degree, but by the time its dangers became apparent, it was too late. La Habrea was forced to kill his wife, and though he closely guarded the heart of Sabik to prevent the spread of its influence, it was this very caution that allowed Athena's memory to survive. With but one path before you, you must press forward to where Themis and Athena await. I am going to have a big comment to make about this story-wise, but I'm going to save it until it's actually... we're at the end. Given what you know so far, La Habrea suggests that recent events likely began with Professor Claudian being lured to Azisla by the heart of Sabik's ethereal signature, which led to Athena's awakening. Much remains unclear, however, and the only path to answers lies through Pandemonium's final gate and through Themis. While you do not relish facing your quondam ally in battle, you hold on to the hope that Athena's spell can be broken, and make ready to set forth to wherever he awaits. I fucking love this fight. First off, the music is fucking great. I like the light and dark mechanic they've got going on here when it comes to like balancing it and doing mechanics in the circle. I've heard from people that I haven't seen too much of P11S specifically, but I've heard that there isn't actually much light and dark interaction, or as much as there used to be, as much as there is in the first one proportionally, which is honestly kind of a shame, but, yeah, I think this fight is good. A lot of people have already memed that, like, yeah, this is E11-2. Where it has a very similar, like, okay, here's a mechanic where I'm going to slam the middle, and one of two things is going to happen. Well, in fact, I think in E11 it's one of three. Personally, I think I find this fight a little bit more palatable. I don't know if it's because I've gotten used to a lot more of the mechanics in R14 now, because when I was going through them, as I was playing through the MSQ, or, like, you know, whenever that actually was, I was a little less equipped to kind of deal with it and getting caught off guard by a lot of stuff. Having done this fight several times now, like, I think I still like it a bit more, because it tends to do a lot of... It has a rule for the light and the dark, and it sticks to it a lot. And that's kind of just the deal. But yeah, I've heard that there isn't too much of the actual, like, balancing light and dark mechanic in P11S, which actually is kind of a shame, but, like, I don't know. Like, from the sound of it, too, there's a lot of, there's still, like, light and dark elements, but they're not, like, you don't have to balance them, it's just you have to recognize which one of them's active, I think is the point. But, yeah, anyway. We're not talking about Savage here. There's only one mechanic with it. Yeah, that's what I heard. Like, because I know there's a mechanic where, like, he will, like, there's, colored beams forming on the edges of the arena, and he's going to do a, attack in the center, and it's either a knockback, and you have to get into the center, or you get blasted immediately, or it's a, oh, fuck, no, wait, I don't think I remember how that mechanic works. But, like, there is still light and dark things you have to recognize, but the balance thing specifically isn't too much of it. Also, I just love we get, like, I love that we get a Elidibus and not, like, a Warrior of Light Elidibus. Like, seeing that of him, too, is, yeah, very good. Themis proves to be an adversary worthy of his station, but you emerge victorious against the emissary. Although he is injured, his ether remains stable. For how long, however, is uncertain. By reinforcing Themis's dissipating ether with your own, you manage to grant him extra time in your own age. He is grateful for your efforts and vows to judge Athena's actions as his position demands. You return to the entrance of Pandemonium, where Ecthonius and Lahabrea stand eager to hear what the now-freed emissary has to say. Themis reveals that Athena's vessel, which will become her next stepping stone toward godhood, is none other than Professor Claudian. Although this ought to be impossible, Themis's time as Athena's puppet provided useful insight in how it works, as he observed her calling Claudian by a familiar name, Erechthonius. This revelation is a shock to all present, except for me, save Lahabrea, whose cryptic statement suggests he saw it coming for some time. Yeah, I think it was fairly obvious that, like, or it was relatively simple to put together that Claudian might have been a shard of Erechthonius. Like, First of all, unfortunately, because they don't have a lot of, like, dark-skinned characters in the game, and they both happen to be it, and they were both from different things, and they both seem to be really into... Yeah, there's just a lot that seemed to line up there, honestly. Also, it'd just be poetically obvious for one of them to kind of work with that, and, yeah, unfortunately, they gave, like, a really easy tell in some ways. It seems that Lahabrea has conjured a plan to free Claudian, though he is less than forthcoming with the details. For the time being, he tasks you with standing against his former lover that she may be weak enough for his scheme to succeed, and so you steel your spirits for one final excursion into Athena's gate. This fight's fucking rad. The music, again, banger. Like, an uncorrupted version of the music or an uncrunched version of the music we heard in the first two fights. With P11 being kind of its own thing, being a reprise of To the Edge. Yeah, this fight is great. I don't know if there's much to say about it, ultimately. Expected a fight, not a rave. Yeah, I kind of expected a rave from the outset once we heard the first fight music, but... if anything, the first fight is more of a rave than this one. This is a bit more... Actually, I don't know what you'd call it. It's not quite ravey, but it has those kind of elements snuck in, obviously, because it's an iteration on the same song. I really like the boss model in this, actually. The kind of moth motif, I think, is a lot more interesting than, like, kind of the angelic theme that a lot of the stuff around the arena you can see in that little picture there has. Like, I think it was a more interesting choice, honestly. Also, what was it, the super chain theory? Jesus Christ, that, like, visually that happens, like, that mechanic spawns in, and you're like, ugh, but if you read it for a second, it's, like, kind of obvious how it's gonna work. But I fucking love, the middle section. I don't, like... That's an ad phase, and I feel like ad phases can often feel, like, very boring. That is one of the most hectic ad phases I've ever seen in normal content, I think. So there are four angels, quote-unquote, you have to hit, or you have to defeat. Some of them do beam attacks, some of them do, like, a 270 cone attack. And then you've got, Athena jumping to random players and bursting on and, like, smashing them, creating, I think, fire on the ground for a brief moment. And it also lines up with a 2-minute window, so, like, you can, like, I've been playing that a little bit as Samurai, and saving up and doing, like, all of the AoE combos and for burst instead of the, single target always feels really good. The fact that it's a mixture of all the other themes is great. Yeah, no, they work so much of the previous themes into this that it's, like, really, really fucking good. Which is something I just didn't get from Eden. Like, obviously they did remix of the primal themes, but, like, the final theme... Well, the final theme resembled more the P12S theme, special theme that you get, in terms of tone. So, like, there wasn't really a follow-through like that, but I appreciate that there was a follow-through this time. Like, It's very fucking good. Actually, let me take a drink. As befits one who has laid many a god low and lived to tell of it, you remain unshaken by Athena's attempts to plunge you into the abyss. Despite her power to warp nature itself, you emerge triumphant and ready to see her evil experiments ended for good. Although defeated, Athena yet lives. She is more than happy to reveal that her grand design was to replace life upon Etheirys with superior beings of her creation, and confirms that Erichthonius was never more than a tool for his end. Her ambitions now denied, she attempts to purge the ethereal sea with a burst of powerful magics, but is stymied by the sudden awakening of Claudian's will, roused from its slumber by Erichthonius' memories. Her control over the body lost, Athena's memories are expelled, leaving her a powerless phantom. As the space that was once Pandemonium begins to collapse as the forces holding it together vanish, Themis teleports you and La Habrea to safety, leaving no witness to Athena's final moments. While the loss of Erichthonius lies heavy in the hearts of all present, you rest assured that that his sacrifice was not in vain. Peace is restored to the ethereal sea, but Claudian remains insensate? What the fuck does that mean? Insensate. Lacking physical sensation.
Insensate.
Completely lacking sense of reason. So, yeah, basically not responding to stimuli, I presume, is the best way to put it. Themis says that he will stand vigil over the professor and instructs you to rest until such time as you are needed. And then one more thing. Yeah. While waiting for Claudian to regain his senses, La Habrea asks you about the Ascian that shared his name, confessing that he sees the Paragon's actions as a logical evolution of his own devotion to duty. Knowing now what is to come, he soundly rejects the now awakened professor's attempts to express gratitude, though this may be out of principle rather than contrition. Regardless, having fulfilled his role to the last, La Habrea fades into the ethereal sea once more, leaving you with the tantalizing suggestion that should you return to the past, Pandemonium's final mysteries might be solved. While Erichthonius and Themis greets you warmly in Pandemonium, La Habrea reacts with characteristic curtness. I thought that said cuntness for a second, and I was gonna fucking say, excuse me? Apparently, he was just on his way to settle some matters of grave import, so you follow him to an empty chamber where hegemony awaits. La Habrea accuses her of setting Hephaestus free, surmising that she has been under the influence of Athena's mind-controlling magics for some time. With this truth come to light, La Habrea's decision is made. In order to gain the strength required to break Athena's hold, he will rejoin Hephaestus' essence to his own. After absorbing those bitter memories, the change in his personality is immediately apparent. In him, you see the La Habrea who will one day stand against you as an enemy, and he seems well aware that your respective wills must one day clash. While far from an ideal farewell, the questions that led you back to the past are answered. You return to the present day's ethereal sea, where Claudian informs you that a new memory is surfaced within the crystal. It shows you a vision of Erichthonius, apparently from the final days, wherein he resolves to set the crystal adrift as a warning to survivors about the nature of Pandemonium. Ere you have time to reflect on your comrade's fate, however, Claudian reveals that the heart of Sabik has come into his possession, now empty of Athena's memories. As it remains a powerful specimen, Claudian seems to keep keen to devote his coming days to exploring its secrets. Though this is perhaps not the wisest idea, you have more pressing matters to attend to for the moment, namely, one last farewell. You have your final conversation with Themis, during which he reveals that he now possesses some of the later Elidibus's fragmented memories. From what he can make out, he speculates that he agreed to send you to Elpis because of vague recollections of your time together in Pandemonium, though given the great change wrought upon his personality by the intervening millennia, it is impossible to be certain. Reflecting with fondness upon your time together and the meaning it may hold, he dissipates into the ethereal sea, leaving you to contemplate the vast expanse. Back in Aporia, Claudian affirms his resolve to continue research into the heart of Sabik and following such traces as Erichthonius has left behind, thanking you for your brave contribution. Although history may not remember your journeys into Pandemonium, the memories of your allies and their unfaltering courage will be forever etched into your memory. Okay. I have some opinions about this. So, one of the big things that was hanging over my mind, as even from the moment that Pandemonium began, was like, what has this got to do with La Habrea? Clearly, we're going to do something akin to looking into the life of Venar and Hythlodaeus and Hermes and that before they were who they were, right? Venar before Hydaelyn, Hythlodaeus before being a shade born of Emmet, Emmet when he was still Emmet but before crushing weight of millennia, and Hermes before becoming a shard and a fragment of his former self. And the question I think I had early on was, what are we going to do with this character here? Like, what are we going to explore? Is this like Mad Scientist and La Habrea is the final boss and etc, etc? And I think it was by the second wing that we got the talk about Athena. Because I think it was after defeating the tree Edgedistis that we found out about it. But I don't know how I feel about it in retrospect. I was curious how they were going to make La Habrea look, and initially in the second wing, it was obviously very different, and that was meant to strike a chord with you. First off, you have this shade that seems to be masquerading as La Habrea, claiming to be Erechthonius' father in place of La Habrea, which is kind of weird. But La Habrea was also more, like, very curt, straightforward, not given to emotion, like, duty-driven, but not, like, very kind of intense about it. The Erechthonian. Yeah, I was thinking that too, but I think at the end of the second wing, I was like, no. Now I'm thinking about how does La Habrea go back to, forming with Hephaestus. Hephaestus is very much the La Habrea we saw in ARR. A lot more intense, a lot more driven, a lot more dangerous, and a word is escaping me here for putting other people in danger. But that seemed to make sense to me. And before we got to the end of the second wing, I was wondering, okay, so there's a couple of options here. La Habrea joins back with Hephaestus out of necessity. La Habrea actually sacrifices himself, and Hephaestus is actually the La Habrea we see in ARR. Potentially Erechthonius could have been the La Habrea. Like, there were a lot of things going through my mind. And then we get the explanation about Athena. And the more I think about it, the more I do not like the way they put this. Now, don't get me wrong. We love an unhinged woman in STEM. My mind has literally been broken by such a woman before, and Athena is great in isolation. Love that for her. God forbid a woman have hobbies, etc, etc. The one thing I really don't like is the implication that La Habrea's, like, more maniacal personality is basically just because of Athena. Especially, and the thing, like, at the time I was kind of like, oh, I didn't really think of it that way, but when they presented the Heart of Sabik and, like, postulated that, Athena had basically been corrupted by it, much in the same way that people in the Evil East raids had been, I was like, okay, that's cool. I like that as an idea. She got really intense into her studies and didn't realize this was happening, and no one noticed until it was too late. But then the whole thing about Athena planting the seeds in La Habrea, it basically boils down to La Habrea. The reason La Habrea is the way he is in ARR is because of Athena. And I think that's exceptionally boring. Like, oh yeah, okay, it was just Athena. It wasn't because they were both studying the Heart of Sabik and both got corrupted, and La Brea jumped the gun on this is honestly, this is how I would have tackled it. The Heart of Sabik or the Aura Sight, potentially given by literally Ultima, depending on how you look at it. Athena comes to La Brea with this thing, and they both begin studying it. They're both studying it, and they're slowly being corrupted by it. La Brea is the first one to realize it, and actually, rips out Hephaestus, right? So, okay, he's half-self, cold, whatever. But what that does is that he stops recognizing the red flags in Athena, because Athena seems to be manifesting in a different way. It's not just, what if I do this thing? Athena is, madly driven. Focused, concise, clear, but driven. And the Torn, La Brea, doesn't recognize that that's not part of his lover. And Athena just keeps going, no, I can do this. I know I can look into the secrets of this. I really would have liked there to be some hubris on La Brea's part. But it really feels like the problem with La Brea is Athena, and I don't like that. Considering the great storytelling we got with Emmet, with Elidibus, with Fandaniel and Hermes, this sucks. I really wish there was more hubris to La Brea's tale than none. I really would have liked there to be something here that was actually his fault, and not just, oh, well, it wasn't his fault that the seeds got planted in his mind, and he had to tear them out because otherwise he'd turn out like Athena. But also, he had to bring it back out of necessity, because otherwise he wasn't going to do that. And the way the story puts it is no, he reconciles with that. But, I would have liked him to reconcile with that when it was actually his fault. And not just, his wife corrupted him. And in another scenario, I probably wouldn't have minded so much. I think it's specifically because this character has been a big villain since the beginning of the fucking game. To reduce him to his wife made him mad is kind of crap, in my opinion. And, I've said before that, Sidequest stories obviously don't have the same resources to tell the same stories that the MSQ does. I can't go expecting the same, quality and detail from the storytelling on the same scale as the MSQ in that. But I don't think it was out of range to do, this couple who are madly driven into research that, mutually destroyed themselves via pure hubris. One for jumping the gun and one for never realizing the red flags. I feel like there's more tragedy there than, oh, I didn't know my wife was going crazy, so I had to kill her. And then, oops, she already corrupted me. I don't know. I really dislike the way that is actually set out. I think it honestly diminishes La Brea in a way that I think is really tropey and bad. But yeah. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I managed to waffle about 6.4 for 2 hours. So I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to do some healing role quests. I don't know if I'm actually going to get to do the physical range ones. We might at least start them. Because there's still, the post... there's still the post-role quest stuff to do, so I could probably get a second stream out of that, plus the range one, but we'll see where we end up. Anyway, I will be right back.